Hello, welcome to the Gun Shop and welcome to Forgotten Guns, the series where we're going to be looking at guns that are generally less popular than some of the other stuff we review. A lot of these guns will be taken out of our scrap bin, and this is no exception. This is a Savage Stevens Model 77F. So, the Savage Stevens Model 77 started life as a military gun. They were built, I believe, as the 77 and the 77E for the Vietnam War, and they were produced from what, 1955 all the way to 1970 something, 1971. The 77E varied a little bit from this, but they all ran off of the same action block. What changed really was the stock, the barrel, and most importantly, this choked end. So, let's have a little look over it. Recoil pads. I think these were the first model, the 77 was the first model of gun from Savage Stevens to have a recoil pad fitted to standard. The E had a shortened stock used by Vietnam soldiers, but the F, was more of the sporting style stock. So I believe it was a touch longer, about 14.25, and a little bit more rounded. Came with a 25.5 inch, 26 inch barrel, depending on whether we're counting that poly choke or not. Steel action, steel tube, steel mag. Only a 5-shot mag, however this one has been restricted to 2+1, as is the section 2 requirement in the UK. And I say this is the F part really, this is the F part here, the Savage adjustable choke. So, a gun that has a lot of pedigree back in Vietnam. Obviously in jungle warfare the shotguns were a lot more popular, and as such thousands of the E models were produced and sent over there. And as such their popularity became greater when they were home. It was something that the guys were familiar with. When the Vietnam War was over, they were then issued to the police, and they're very, very similar, I believe, to the 69. Don't quote me on that. I don't have one to hand to show you. Walnut stock, very prone to cracking these actually. As you can see on this one here, we have a little crack in there, and a little crack in there, and it's had a big scratch there, but that's not a crack. And another crack there. So, as such, I believe even actually, with this wooden furniture, they sent crate loads out to Vietnam because the stocks kept breaking there, kept cracking and kept unreliable, so they actually sent extras out. So it's a known fault, which is surprising they didn't actually just fix it or change it at all. That would have been nice. But they didn't do that, so there you go. Unlike a lot of modern pumps, when you pull the bolt back, the bolt actually drops out. So instead of having a barrel that the bolt locks into, the bolt gets pulled forward and locks back into the receiver. A very utilitarian gun, really. In fact, I believe they were even called utility grade, meaning that they weren't particularly exciting. When I say not particularly exciting, I don't mean not working, but they didn't worry about the grade of wood. They didn't worry about engraving or beauty. It was very much built to work. Big, heavy steel block, big, heavy steel everything. Which again brings me back to why the stock cracks kind of just ruins that whole theory. But that's why they stopped building it. Actually, that's not why they stopped building it. They stopped building it because the mag wasn't big enough for the market. Everyone wanted a 7-shot mag at the time. And this being a 5er just didn't quite cut the mustard. The poly choke. Poly chokes were a big thing back in the 60s and 70s, where it was a lot easier to attach with the engineering at the time a choke to the outside of the gun than the inside of the gun. So, here's how a poly choke works. You have a load of splits in a barrel. Quite simply, you have a collet over the outside and a thread, and you have a bit on the outside that gets thicker as you tighten it on. And as you tighten it, these get crimped in and then get pulled out. It does allow for a little bit of, I find the whole thing a bit strange personally, that there is no marking, nothing like that, and looking from a modern perspective, it's just a bit out of date. But, the ability to change your choke back then was clearly something that was starting to bear on people's minds, starting to be a useful thing. However, it's a Savage adjustable choke. They're not the most exciting in the world, and I'd love to put one of these over a pattern plate if I had the time and the inclination, just to find out how good the Savage adjustable system is. I've put poly chokes over them in the past, sort of cuts compensators, that sort of thing, but it would just be interesting to see what the Savage one can do. So, safety catch, very standard sort of safety catch. In fact, you can actually even see in the back here of the trigger guard how it is just a trigger block. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. That sort of open honesty was a sign of the times. They didn't try and hide everything. Nothing was sort of encased. And guns were built to be perhaps a little bit more solid than they are today, but only because they, you know, weren't made of the same quality materials they are today. The slide release is there, so you push that, the slide will come back, or go forward without it, and so you're going to be dry firing that. I would say, and the most interesting thing I find about it is that drops down and falls back in. Doesn't make for a particularly smooth cycle, in my opinion. It doesn't make for a particularly smooth cycle. But, again, it's all part of the character of this gun. So this gun in particular, what can we tell you about this gun in particular? This gun was given to us about 2 years ago. It was the first gun I took in here as scrap. And people will ask why it's scrap. It's got a cracked stock. It's not in the best of conditions. You know, it's not in the best of conditions. The thing really needs a stripping clean. It's all a little bit clogged up and nasty, and it needs a lot of love. And for a gun that, if it was in nice condition, would retail at what, £150 tops in minty condition. It's actually a 26-inch barrel, not a 25.5 inch. It's a stamped 26, which is quite exciting. There's 25.5 plus half an inch in there where the bolt holds foam. But we won't worry about that too much. Sorry, back to the main part. Why won't we sell it? It's just not in nice enough condition. You know, it's the most ridiculous thing we find, that if you sell a gun for £100, £150, I guarantee you that person will be back with warranty issues, wanting £150 worth of work done to it. There's a lack of realisation, or perhaps there is a realisation perhaps, and we're just being taken for granted here, that a gun for £150 isn't going to be great. Which is why a lot of this stuff just doesn't make it out there. You know, we do look at putting it in auction occasionally, but that would be sad. You know, it's kind of, it was a bit of a historic moment, and the guy who was retiring from shooting, it wasn't even a scrap issue, he was retiring from shooting. He brought all his guns in, and a couple were nice and a couple quite didn't make the grade. Even said to us he's had a lifetime's worth of fun out of this gun, and he'd like somebody to have it. Problem is, we can't really sell it. So at the time, me and my colleague said, well, let's not scrap it, let's just put it to one side. It's the first gun we scrapped, the first gun we took in scrap, and there is something quite delightful about it. There is something quite delightful about it. Always be careful with these Savage Stevens. This one is proofed, but a lot aren't. It's not required by American law to stamp your guns with proof bore sizes or anything like that, so you'll find a lot of these older guns were brought in before our licensing system changed. And you'll find a lot of these older guns without proof marks. Always double check that before you buy one, obviously. It's not the buyer's prerogative, it is the seller's prerogative to double check that is right. And it's probably best, if you ever want to sell that gun, to check that it has got some kind of stamps on there. So there you have it, the Stevens Model 77F. A bit of a strange old beauty, and she does have a lot of old engineering world charm, if you like. They're actually now a collector's item, certainly in the States. Over here they're occasionally sold at auction, and you might find one, and they make a good rough gun, but again, due to the old nature of them, they're probably not the best gun to take and abuse. Thank you very much for watching, guys. As always, I'd love to know your thoughts on this thing. It does hold a little bit of, I've got a bit of a soft spot for it. There's no hiding that, obviously. And for a bit of an old beater, she is absolutely delightful. It's just a shame we live in the market we live in, I suppose. Take care. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and we'll get another Forgotten Guns for you next week. Cheers.